Let's go.
Let's do it. Welcome back, Black Magic TV. And today we have uh, Mr. Aaron Scarbrough.
Howdy.
He's based off his social media, I've learned that Aaron is a stoner.
Mm-hmm.
He loves heavy metal,
Mm-hmm.
and he's a comedian.
Mm-hmm.
He was introduced to me just this week, actually, by a friend of the show, John
John
Sheezer.
Sheezer. Yeah. People say we look similar, me and John, but he's like I've always called him like best case scenario Aaron. he's Aaron with like loving parents. That's what happens.
Yeah, there's a guy used to live up north, now he lives in Florida, and he was the Tyler of Minnesota, of Minneapolis, and I was the Kevin Thoen of Kansas City.
Isn't it nice to meet, like, an alternate timeline?
Yeah.
You or whatever.
Multiverse Tyler, I call it.
Yeah. I love meeting those guys. I also have some celebrity doppelgangers, apparently. But they're always, like, this guy named Ben Foster, who he's, like, typecast as a scumbag.
Ben Foster is quite
movie.
possibly one of my favorite actors.
He's great.
Of all time. From his childhood acting days.
What was he in as a kid?
I'm trying to think of what he was in. But he was in Alpha Dog. He played...
Really?
Yeah, wasn't he the shitty brother?
Wait, I don't think I've seen Alpha Dog.
Alpha Dog's about... what's the guy's name? Jimmy Hollywood or Johnny Hollywood? The white kid that was like the drug dealer, and he kidnapped his buddy's brother, and they end up murdering him.
Well, that sounds terrific.
Because Ben Foster always had that, like... when he was younger, he had like the shitty mustache.
He's like I said, he's typecast as a scumbag all the time, which makes sense that I would look like someone like that. But
he was in that remake of The Mechanic with Jason Statham.
The Mechanic. Have you seen? He's in 3:10 to Yuma, right?
Yes.
Hell or High Water. That's phenomenal.
Yes. He's always and like. He started off playing not a scumbag, but like I feel like he was like a dorky kid.
Yeah.
In some like teenage, like maybe Nickelodeon show, maybe like an ABC show, something. We'll look it up after this because my phone's in the other room plugged in.
He was in X-Men as well, right?
Yes.
He was like he had wings. Archangel, maybe.
He was Archangel.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a great actor.
The first two X-Men are fucking phenomenal.
The originals with Hugh Jackman.
Yeah.
Dude.
And Logan is phenomenal as well.
Logan is super tight. And I feel like they're going to... They keep saying they're going to make a sequel to that, which I hope they do. Because then it was like Old Man Logan is what it went to after that in like the comic books.
Yeah, which is, isn't that like a fucking Frank Miller story or
I
something?
think so.
Frank
it got
Miller,
real weird because everyone is dead and he's old as shit. And it's like way in the future. And like, I think he kills the Incredible Hulk maybe. There's like, there's so many, like, the way people love... I wish people got into the comic books as much as they loved the movies. You know what I mean? The way they loved them. Because the comics, like, they go...
There's so many different timelines that you can pay attention to. And, like, the best comic books I feel like, are made by guys who kind of hate comic books.
Yeah.
Like Alan Moore.
Yeah.
He fucking hates Batman, but he wrote the best Batman story of all time.
It's like, I got stuck on this project that I don't want to do. I'll show you by making the coolest thing ever.
I love that shit. Because I hate superheroes, too. But I love superhero stories.
Right.
You know.
That's why I brought you the Joker cup to drink.
Oh, is this a Joker cup?
It is indeed a Joker.
It looks kind of like the Killing Joke Joker too.
It might be. Know? It is very. That might be the Killing Joke Joker. No.
Finally, I'm talking to someone who gets my fucking references.
Yeah.
God, everyone else sucks. We're the only cool guys.
Yeah. We're the only cool dudes in the country right now. I'm a big Batman mark. That was always my shit. I loved the X-Men when I was little.
Yeah.
And especially because how old are you, Aaron?
32.
Okay, so I'm 40.
Yeah.
So I was like in grade school when the X-Men animated series started.
Oh, nice.
So that was like a big deal. Like when Power Rangers first came on, I was in like the four. I remember
Yeah.
Power Rangers came out. I filmed the first episode.
Mm-hmm.
And then like we had show and tell. I was in the 4th grade.
Damn.
And I showed up to show and tell with like a VHS tape and I was like, I will need you to play this, please.
Mm-hmm.
And I showed everyone the first episode of Power Rangers being like, this is crazy, you guys. And then everyone just looked at me and was like, what in the fuck, dude? Like, what are you showing us?
It sounds like you were adorable.
Yeah, well, I don't know if that's the word most people would have used for me back then, but
Yeah.
I was a bit of a maniac even in the 4th grade. But,
Really?
oh yeah, I've always been pretty high
Yeah.
strung,
Pretty high.
pretty high wired.
Dude, believe it or not, I grew up super straight laced and I was a dare role model in high school.
Oh, sick.
Literally,
Yeah.
a dare role model. And now my favorite food is LSD.
Yeah.
What do you?
Go
you know?
figure. I was fairly straight laced. I watched my sister battle demons at a young age with drugs and alcohol.
Yeah.
So I was like, I'm not. And this time of year makes me think about it because I've been sober
Mm-hmm.
for 8 years now. Like
Off of booze.
booze, hard
Yeah.
drugs.
Mm-hmm.
I had a bit of a cocaine, methamphetamine, Adderall
You're an uppers
cocktail.
guy.
Yeah, I was an upper. I became an uppers guy.
Yeah.
But the first time I drank, I was like 15.
Mm-hmm.
Well, first time I got drunk, I was 15. We told my parents we were going to go see Rocky Horror Picture Show. I went out with a bunch of punk rockers
Fuck yeah.
that were my sister's friends, and I got drunk on like some fruity ass St. Ides.
Yeah.
Like nothing that, like, looking back at the fact, like the only way to describe it was like, yeah, that was pretty gay of us to like
Yeah.
go drinking like
Dude, my
we're drinking like
first-
fruit punch St.
That's how
Ides.
it's supposed to. That's
Yeah.
a coming of age story, though. In America, like your first time getting drunk should be like Jolly Rancher vodka, or
Right.
something.
Yeah, Mad Dog,
Yeah,
whatever. But we did that and then I waited a while and then like it was pretty quickly that like every time I drank, even like in high school there was like maybe 3 times,
Yeah.
but every time it was like to excess where I was like I
Same.
pissed on this lady's floor once at her mom's house and
Yeah.
like there was always that shit. I never smoked weed until I was 21.
Yeah, I didn't either.
Yeah.
Well, my first time smoking weed was probably a little bit before that. But I wasn't a big weed smoker in college. And by the way, I've been sober off of booze for like 5 years.
Sick.
But I still fuck with drugs a little bit.
Yeah. Booze is the hard one, man. Like
Yeah.
my thing really wasn't so much the drugs. I really have grown to wonder if I was just like addicted to the criminal lifestyle I was leading,
Mhm.
because I would just there's like no like I tell people like riding motorcycles is about as close as you get to like doing like crazy illegal stuff. And I think
Yeah.
that's why a lot of sober guys ride bikes that are like ex-maniacs.
Yeah, or they get into jujitsu
Oh,
or
right.
something. Because
Something.
we both know that, like, if you're like us, time with your own thoughts is like, it can be dangerous.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
too much time with your own thoughts.
Yeah, I get there. Sometimes when I'm editing, I have to just stop and like,
Mhm.
is there someone on the internet that will get into the Discord, boys? Sometimes I make
Oh,
my
yeah.
buddy get in there and just be like, hey, watch me edit this video
Yeah.
and help me and tell me if it's funny, you
Mhm.
know? Where did you grow up at, Aaron?
Fairfax, Missouri, which is like a tiny little town up in the northwest corner of the state.
Okay.
Right
Right on like the Iowa border?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Border baby.
I lived there my whole life, and then I went to college in Maryville, which was only about 26 miles away.
In Missouri or can't
Missouri,
right.
Northwest Missouri
Yeah,
State.
Yep.
And then after I got done with that, I moved to Kansas City, and I've been here ever since.
What did you study in college?
Art?
Cool.
Yeah.
Any specific medium or just
So
general?
I was a horrible student, and I graduated barely, but I started. Well, I wound up doing photography as my emphasis or
Okay.
whatever, but it was only because I knew that the department was a fucking joke, and
Right.
I could scam my way through it,
Right.
and I did, without doing hardly anything.
Right.
Even though, like I majored in photography, but the whole time I was just painting.
Right.
But and then after that, I worked. Like I went from. I always tell people, like I remember uh, last year of college senior seminar, which was where all the art students they were about to graduate had a group to talk about future plans and like get you ready for the real world. And it was getting to be the end of the semester, my last semester of college. And we were all sitting around in a circle, and there was this student that we referred to as Dragon Girl, and she painted dragons constantly and very poorly.
Yeah.
And it was one of those deals where she was in school for like an ungodly amount of time, and they wound up just passing her or
Yeah.
whatever. But so we were all going around and we were all saying our future plans, and we were all just, it was bullshit. We were all just like, yeah, I'm applying to some residencies and thinking about grad school or whatever. And it got to be Dragon Girl's turn, and um, she was like, I have a job lined up at the railroad, and we all just laughed at her.
Right.
Fast forward like 6 months, I'm working customer service at a milk company, and I just remember thinking, I wonder if the railroad is hiring
Yeah.
right now. I got humiliated immediately after art school, and then I worked in like call centers for years.
Yeah.
But
Just like in the industry, like in the art industry.
no, not at all.
Oh, just like
yeah.
no. I'm saying the humiliation that you suffered. Was it?
Just like, yeah. I mean, I was a dipshit, and I wasn't very good at art, and I was cocky, and I didn't realize how hard it was going to be to do anything in art.
Right.
So yeah, I worked for horrible, blood sucking, fucking like call center
Yeah.
companies and for years. And then in 2020, I quit my call center job because I was starting to make a little bit of money in comedy and selling paintings and whatnot. And that was the last time I had a job.
Oh, awesome.
So,
When did the comedy come in?
so I started doing open mics when it was 2017.
Okay.
So I think I was 26 or 27 or something. I don't fuck with math.
Yeah.
I'm on a vibes based system.
Yeah, I'm with you. I work in the automotive field. I
Yeah.
work at a hot rod shop.
Yeah.
And like I'm ashamed to admit this, but like I'm the worst tape measure reader ever. And I literally have a tape measure that I will measure something, and just so I don't have to do it 47 times, I take a Sharpie and I put a mark on my tape measure where I'm at, and then I just clean the tape measure off. And people look at me sometimes, they're like, "What the hell, dude?" I'm like, "Dude, I'm more like, I don't know. My brain's like, I'm very mechanical but very artistic, and I'm at this weird like, I'm like the half-ass master of all, you know. So like, I can't handle all that. I know the basic math necessary to do my job, and that's it.
Well, yeah, and you know how to get the job done.
Yeah.
You know? So
Yeah.
Who gives a fuck?
There's also like, yeah, I'll cheat. I'll use cheat codes all the time because I don't know.
I mean, that's the name of the game. Like in painting and comedy and everything. It's like, don't fucking play fair. No one else is.
Yeah, we realized very quickly. Me and my homie were airbrushing shirts. Like we're way into like lowbrow art and like Ed Roth and that whole scene.
I love that.
And we were airbrushing shirts, and Nico and I are watching all these other guys, and it's like you see him. It's like, yo, this dude's a fucking tracer.
Yeah.
He's just a fucking tracer. He just traces this onto a shirt.
Yeah.
Off of a light board, and then he's good at like, he knows how to use the airbrush in that they're like colored pencils to him.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? As we're sitting here like freehand being like, okay, this is how you do it. And it's like, fuck, it doesn't matter. Anyway, you get it done.
Sure.
But yeah, and it's just sometimes you just have to test yourself in art to do that. Like a guy one time there was once I painted this bike, and this guy he was in a motorcycle club. He was in the L4 Stereos, he was in the Galloping Goose. And so he's a one percenter
Yeah.
motorcycle club guy. He's like, "Hey man, can you paint a skull on my motorcycle?" And I just looked at him and said, "Absolutely."
Uh-huh.
And then he walked off. He's like, "I'll call you this week." I'm like, "Okay." And then my buddy that was in the club with him looks at me and goes, "Hey, have you ever painted a skull on a motorcycle?" I went, "No, not at all." And
Yeah.
he went, "What the fuck, dude?" He's like,
Yeah.
"You better not fuck this up." And then I did it, and the guy ended up loving it. But I just had to like, at that moment, I was like, "Okay, I'll just learn like, you know, okay,
Yeah.
I just need to take the photo. I got a photo. I got some help from a buddy that's a tattoo artist. I'm
Yeah.
like, you got to give me the right skull." He got me the skull. I hand cut like stencils and did
So
it
he was
like.
part of like a scary motorcycle club.
People call them scary. I don't call them. It's very. That's a very mystical world.
Yeah.
In that, there's a lot of mysticism around motorcycle clubs,
Yeah.
and in reality, it's a lot of just like anything. It's like weird and propagated,
Mm-hmm.
and they sort of. But where most people will fight against that propagation, they lean right into
I
it
bet.
and play it so but
That makes
like
sense.
they'll play it up like they play up this whole facade
Yeah.
that exists that's like it has a foot in reality most of the time,
Right.
but some of the nicest people you'll ever meet,
Yeah.
some of the biggest shit bags. It's just like anything else. Some of
Oh,
them are
yeah.
the biggest shit bags ever, and some of them are people that like would literally give you every dollar they had to help you out if you're their friend.
Do you fuck with the first season of True Detective at
Yeah.
all? Like I always think of like the motorcycle gangs.
Yeah.
And that when he goes undercover or whatever.
Right.
That long tracking scene. I'm sorry to get sidetracked.
Yeah, no,
but
you're good.
That fucking scene where Matthew McConaughey is like going through the ghetto, like fucking like
Right.
fucking up those motorcycle guys. Like,
Yeah.
oh,
It's great.
that's
But
a
it's
good
very
series.
like that where it's like
Yeah.
it's a weird world where it's like it's also I had told you about how I was working at the police athletic league helping with the kids, and
Mhm.
I started talking to this older officer that I know, Jay Will,
Yeah.
and Jay and I were talking about how like I have my ex-girlfriend never believe me when I'd be like, "Yo, that guy right there is like that's a serious dude in
Yeah.
the world," and she'd be like, "What the fuck are you talking about? It's the guy at the gas station." I'm like, "The guy at the gas station is probably." He owns this gas station, and he also owns that entire city block of houses across the street. And like no one, like if you're
Yeah.
not in the world, you don't like. It sounds so crazy, and you sound like a maniac. But now it's like I've talked to Jay sometimes. I'm like,
Yeah.
"Yeah, that one guy." He's like, "Oh yeah, that guy was. We tore all of his houses down just to try to get him to stop."
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, you know what I mean, like. There's times where like I was been around so much that I can tell, you know what I mean? My last neighborhood, there was for sure like a stash house. I don't know if it was for
Yeah.
money or for drugs for the cartel, but it was a stash house. And it was
Yeah.
like cool, but the neighborhood was safe because of it, you know what I mean?
Yeah. There's also like, I mean, if you spend time in like kind of seedy bars in Kansas City, like you might brush up against some like current or former like mob guys.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
If I have,
Yeah.
like guys that you can literally like go read about their
Right.
family,
Yeah.
on the internet, like, so that's kind of fun.
Yeah, there's a lot of those dudes. I'm pretty sure I ran into one of those dudes not long ago
Yeah.
at the bar, and he was like hella old. And he was
Mhm.
trying to fight me at Lucky Boys, and I was just like, "Yeah, I'm good, dude." Like,
Yeah.
then they like complained to Dan, and Dan just laughing. It's like one of
Yeah.
my best buds. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? He's like, "Do you want to apologize, Tyler?" And I went, "I don't think I do." He goes, "That's okay." He's like, I was like, "I'll see you tomorrow," and I just left. You know what I mean? It's like I don't
Yeah.
need this bullshit, man. But yeah, like mob guys, same thing, man. Like it is what it is. I guess I understand it, but also it's like this coming from that world and having this like nobody's gonna treat me like a bitch mentality, because that's mostly what
Yeah.
being a criminal is, and that's like what gets ingrained in you.
Yeah.
It's like really fucked up that these people, especially in the motorcycle world, I've always like it's all these people that claim to hate the establishment and hate society and
Right.
and want to live outside of the rules as written by the government, but
Mhm.
then they have all these rules themselves that like if
Yeah.
you break our rules that's it, and it's like, well, fuck, man, like
Yeah.
what, aren't you just you're just trying like aren't you just being a cop now, like,
Mhm.
so I don't think it matters. I think it's very hard for people to get into a position of power, and then it's very easy to be like, I would never do that.
Mhm.
And then, you know, you get in there and it's like, oh, it's like how many times have we heard a politician be like, it's
Yeah.
going to be different with me? And then
Yeah.
they get
Yeah.
in there and you're like, oh no, something happens when you get in there, I'm sure. And you realize very quickly, like, oh, you either wise up or you go back home to your.
A lot of people are that way with, like, yeah, I mean, power, money. Like,
Right.
if as soon as people have money, they become just insufferable a lot of times.
Yeah.
And I'm probably no exception if I ever have money.
I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah.
Give me all the money.
Yeah.
I'll tell you all day that I'm just gonna help everybody out, but in reality,
Yeah.
then like I'm looking to be one of those lottery guys that like do you know about the lottery winners at
Mm.
all?
Oh, the people who ruin their lives,
Like almost
like within a
almost
week.
100% tracking record that like
Yeah.
people that win the lottery
It's a
just go
death
down
sentence.
fast.
Yep. I mean, yeah, it seems like one of those deals where it's like, no, I would have self control. How would I ever fuck that up?
Right.
But it's
Easy to
human
say.
nature.
Yeah. Human. Yeah. Just like
Yeah.
it's anything like it's probably why, like we were talking beforehand, like that's why it's so hard for the police departments to change,
Yeah.
because it's this long established deal, and unless you start over
Yeah.
with a new thing.
And it's you can't deny that like the job of a police officer, like it fucking a lot of psychopaths find that like very appealing.
Well, it's just a lot. Yes, a lot of people who would have been criminals.
Yeah.
It's the same. They're the same. I'm the same. I'm
Yeah.
the same. We're the same.
Yeah.
We're the same person. And like
Yeah.
that's just it. The cops and criminals, they're the same people. They're for the most part. They signed up to do.
Yeah.
They wanted to play cops and robbers or cowboys and Indians forever. Like
The
that's
thing
what
is,
it is.
the thing the where it makes I don't know. It's kind of though. I feel like American culture, for whatever reason, like they've like the propaganda and whatever the CIA, like their fucking propaganda campaigns that they've been carrying out forever, have trained like people that are our parents' age to inherently respect cops for no fucking reason.
Right.
Or at least my parents, anyway. My parents are so fucking pilled by Fox News, just
Yeah.
constant bullshit being drilled into their head, and they've bought into it
Yeah.
wholeheartedly. My parents are like my dad. Like I would go home from school every day, and my mom would be watching Glenn Beck with a notebook, like taking notes. My dad, his favorite president is Ronald Reagan, and my dad's a fucking dentist. Like he's not supposed to be retarded, but he is.
Yeah.
It's so weird that people are like that.
Yeah.
But I really don't. I really do think that it's been like an effort of the federal government or whatever to brainwash that generation to be bootlickers.
Right. Yeah. Luckily, my parents, they're kind of. I've been surrounded. I was inundated with a lot of people around me, especially in the automotive scene,
Mm-hmm.
where it was like became this like, the last few years where they were like diving in hard, no matter which side they took. And I
Yeah.
was just like, okay, guys, like, when are we going to go back to regular business where we don't care about this stuff? Because you haven't cared for 50 years.
Mhm.
And then magically, the famous guy that was on TV a couple times has now started a shit show, which is
Yep.
all he's doing. Is it's like just a big shit show. It's just
Mhm.
reality television now, and
Yeah.
it's like like when is there a time in your life, in my life, I don't ever remember, and I fucking hate that I know so many of them by name. I don't ever remember anyone, including adults, knowing this many politicians by name, except for my grandfather, uh, who was a sergeant major in the army and
Yeah.
retired, and he was there during like the Korean conflict, like back in
Mm-hmm.
the day, and he always kept up with that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But he was never like he was like, I feel like he watched that shit like all the news just so he could be like, this fucking idiot.
Yeah.
He's this guy sucks just as bad as that guy.
Yeah.
Which was better than him being
Well,
like, oh yeah, he would be like hating on Jesse Jackson for
mhm.
like doing some fucked up thing that he actually did, but then at the same time he would hate on like, he'd be like, oh fucking Ronald Reagan, this
Yeah.
dickhead.
Well, I mean, American politics for a long time has been like there has actually been no left. I feel like it's really just between like centrists, which would be the Democrats,
Yeah.
and then like a lot of the Republicans are absolute like fucking fascists. Like
Yeah.
a lot of them are. I would call, Ron DeSantis a fascist. He has fascist tendencies for sure. But then again, there are like Chuck Schumer and like the Democratic leadership. They fucking suck so bad,
Yeah.
and there's more blood on their hands, honestly, because I don't know. They all just they let Wall Street and the fucking tech industry, like the money,
Dictate
just
everything.
completely controls everything. And most of the population realizes that, but we have no power. Like
I think right. I think the minute we all realize that
Mm-hmm.
and they know it, it's become like they've turned our political system into a reality television show for everyone.
Yeah.
Where they like, it's like, okay, Ron DeSantis, do you really care about this, or do you know that like just that's what it's like. It's become a thing. It's like, do you actually believe this shit,
Yeah.
or do you like whoever it is, are
Isn't it
any of them, or are you just doing this shit so that like are you doing this for like clout? Is this for like likes on Instagram? Is it for Twitter
Yeah.
likes? You know what I mean? Like,
See, Ron DeSantis, I find to be sketchy because he has like a history.
well, let's be honest, he's from Florida.
He's from Florida.
Let's be honest,
strike
he's from
fucking
Florida.
one.
Fucking strike one. He's from Florida. He's probably from fucking Dade County.
He's yeah.
He's probably from Swampland, Florida, which is almost
sucks so
even.
bad. But he's an interesting character because he has like he plays this role as like this Trump surrogate, or that's how he got his start, was just kind of like piggybacking off of Trump's
Right.
rhetoric or whatever. But if you look at his history, he's he has a history with like fucking Navy intelligence or something. He was
Yeah.
a lawyer, who was involved in like Guantanamo, which I mean, I don't know the specifics of that, but I can't imagine he was doing something good
Yeah.
if he was representing the United States when
In
it comes to
Guantanamo
fucking
Bay as a
torture.
lawyer. Yeah.
Yeah, I can't imagine. But that's the thing. People our parents' age,
Right.
a lot of them, my parents, would hear that and they'd be like, "Oh, that sounds like a good guy," like, because they were conditioned to like, or justify
Yeah.
torture and all kinds of fucking CIA spookery.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and also, you know what I really dislike about all of it?
What?
They've taken the fun out of conspiracy theories.
I think that's
Because-
intentional.
I do. Because there was a fair number of us that we enjoyed them. And the fun part of it was, who killed Kennedy?
Yeah.
We'll probably never know.
Yeah.
That's the fun part of it.
Mhm.
But they took the fun away now. Because now everything is a conspiracy. They turn everything into a
intentional, dude.
conspiracy.
It has to be intentional.
Yeah.
Like the QAnon shit and like all that. I feel like they manufacture these fake fucking like or they pour fuel on the fire of these fake things so that if you do talk about Lee Harvey Oswald and his connection with the CIA prior to November of
Right.
'63, you sound like a fucking
Crazy person.
Crazy person.
Yeah.
When it's kind of important. In my mind, I have opinions about.
I
that.
walked into a conversation one day and I had listened to this podcast called the MLK tapes.
Yeah.
And it was basically about how who was the guy they say shot Martin Luther King Jr.
Oh, what was that guy? Like the racist fucking. Oh, yeah. I get the assassinations of Malcolm X.
They all have 3 names.
Yeah.
But it was this whole thing about how there was all this evidence that guy really was just a patsy. He never fired a gun.
It was proven in the 90s
yeah,
in court,
they
right?
they had a mock trial and they found him not guilty, and even Martin Luther King's family recognized it, I guess. It was a very interesting documentary with all these audio tapes from like the 80s and 90s and 70s, and these people were talking about how Jack Daniels had stole the recipe from a black guy. I was like, "Oh, if you guys like shit like that, let me tell you about this." And they're like, "What the fuck does that have to do with this?" And I was like, "Well, don't you want to know who actually killed, like if our government killed Martin Luther King Jr., that would be some heavy stuff.
Big deal.
If it was the Nation of Islam, that would be some big stuff because there was all these like other variables."
Well, the Nation of Islam was like infiltrated by the FBI.
Oh yeah,
at that time, yeah.
Well, also very crazy things like the leader having kids with like teenage girls, and like that has always been just like everyone I ever knew that was in the Nation of Islam was literally just in it because they joined up when they were in prison.
Yeah.
Which is like
that was by like I would expect that is the reason why it has become that is intentional.
Right.
It was a movement that was completely disrupted by the intelligence agencies.
Oh yeah. Dude, I have that book Chaos by Tom O'Neill.
I've been meaning to read that.
Oh, dude,
I love that you like talking about this stuff.
Oh, I love it.
You know how to dry out a pussy, don't you?
Yeah, I do. Unless it's the right one.
Yeah.
Then I'm looking for that lady where it's like,
right.
Dude, my favorite thing used to be like people be talking. I'd be like, "Oh, we never went to the moon," and they'd be like, "What?" I'm like, you probably think the Earth is flat. I was like, "No, that's preposterous." But we definitely never went to the moon. And they're like, "How do you know this?" I was like, "It's like virtually impossible to get out of our belt because of all the garbage we've shot into outer space." And people look at me like, "What?" I'm like, "There's no way we went to the moon."
That's one that
man.
I haven't actually looked very much into, but I do love Stanley Kubrick.
Yeah.
So I would be very
and I don't know
he did that.
if he actually did that. It's very possible.
Yeah.
But there's so many like, it's like back in the day, you used to be able to tell people like, "Yo, the government used to dose Johns at a whorehouse."
Yeah.
And they would like watch them on LSD to see what they did, and they'd be like, "That's not true." And now it's like,
shit.
"No, here's the paper released by the CIA that talks about how."
Yeah.
That's the crazy thing about Chaos is that it like links together how Jolly West, who was the head of the CIA's programs at that time and the head of Mockingbird and Operation Midnight Climax, which was the one with the Johns,
dude,
how he was like
talking my language right now.
It's crazy how that guy was the court appointed psychologist for like Ted Kaczynski, for like the Oklahoma
Jack Ruby, maybe?
Jack Ruby, same guy. Charles Manson, the guy that did the Oklahoma City bombings.
McVeigh.
Who like Richard Ramirez, I believe, was on the list. Whitey Bulger was on the list, I think.
Do you know much about the Dulles brothers?
No.
Alan Dulles and John Foster Dulles, maybe. I think that's his brother's name. I think John Foster Dulles was like in the State Department. I know less about him, but Alan Dulles was the head of the CIA. Well, he was kind of the founder of the CIA.
Okay, yes.
And he was the guy that Kennedy fired. And then guess who was on the Warren Commission investigating the murder of Kennedy?
Right.
Fucking Alan Dulles.
Yeah.
Which is a huge conflict of interest. But back then, because I mean, media was much easier to control back then.
Right.
Like they
For
could
sure.
just completely control public opinion. And I mean, at the time, like no one thought anything was fucking fishy about that.
No, but then you think about this. What year did Kennedy get shot? 64?
63.
63. And it took till like 1992, 1988, something like that,
Mhm.
before they played that Zapruder film on TV, or like
Yeah.
the late 70s.
Yeah.
So it's like it took that dude, and that guy was a stand-up comic that had that
Zapruder
art. Yes,
the guy who took the film?
Well, no, a guy got a copy of the film.
Yeah.
That was a stand-up comic.
Okay.
And he is the one that took it to a news station, and he eventually got them. They played it on the air, and
I
so
did
it's
not
like,
know
yeah,
this.
it's a crazy story. But it was like so many years afterwards, and that was the weird part. It's like our government had this the whole time,
Yeah.
but they didn't want anybody to. You don't want us to see it.
Yeah.
That's
the only person, I mean, like with the Kennedy thing, like everyone has their opinions about it. And the only, I think, like, for sure the CIA was involved, and I think for sure the mafia was involved.
Oh yeah.
And probably the FBI and the Secret Service, like maybe, I don't know.
And some of them unsuspecting. You know?
Yeah.
And I had a guy explain it to me one time that like worked in the government, because I've known a few, like I knew a dude that was like a spook in the Navy during the Gulf War.
Oh, fuck.
And he was like, dude, I
he
was
has
like,
some dark stories.
yeah, dude. He was telling me about like being sent to kill Saddam Hussein and then it getting called off, and like he's told me some wild
Dude,
things.
You want to see something? Since you brought
Yeah, I do.
brought up
I absolutely want to see whatever.
I met an Iraqi comedian the other day. I was like in the car with him for the first time, and he was like, we introduced ourselves, and he was like, I'm from Iraq, and I was like, dude, I actually in my backpack right now have a painting I think you might like.
Oh yeah, that's excellent.
That's
That's excellent.
yeah. Well,
Dude,
I traced it, but
yeah, yeah.
I don't trace everything, but
Well, Saddam, you have to
I-
trace Saddam.
yeah, people, when I show this to people, they think it's Fidel Castro, and I'm like,
No, they don't even look
read a
alike.
goddamn book.
Also, like weird things. I went down this like path of like, like I rewatched that movie 13 Hours, and I was getting amped up because I like really that's the movie about Benghazi.
Yeah,
And I already really dislike the Clintons just in general.
as you should.
Yeah.
That's the only rational opinion
of the Clintons. Yeah. And like I was like, all right, I want to find out about some of these people. Like, let's learn about Gaddafi. Let's learn about
fucking Arab
Saddam
Spring.
Hussein. And then you realize it's like, okay, these guys were fucking wretched human beings. And then at one point they said, you know what? I'm fucked up. And I'm going to do something different. And as they began down that path of doing something different and forming what some might consider to be a democracy in their country, all of a sudden, our government's now saying, like, no, we will not back
every
you.
fucking time.
Every time.
Every fucking time.
Every time.
Guatemala, fucking Indonesia, Vietnam, like
Saudi Arabia.
Saudi Arabia. Every fucking time. As soon Cuba, another great example. Every time democracy and land reform, like all that shit starts to happen, the American government steps in and fucks it up.
Yeah. It's like a weird thing because being a, I guess I would consider myself a conspiracy theorist to a point, but like watching what's happening now in the Middle East, like, is Israel fucked up? Yes.
Yes.
Is it fucked up to like do terror attacks? Yes. Is it easy for me to think that a group of people who were fucking genocided by a maniac in the 40s will do everything in their power if they feel threatened to not have that happen again,
Yeah.
yes.
And also look at the fucking scoreboard. If you want to look at talk
Yeah.
about dead children, dead babies, look
Yeah.
at the fucking scoreboard. And it's so funny, all these fucking like support Israel people who are trying to like bully everyone by like calling them anti-Semites when it's
Yeah.
not the Jewish people, obviously. That
Right.
it's the fucking state of Israel, which is a satellite of the United States. But these people it's just like all of a sudden they fucking care about Palestine.
Right.
Like they didn't know anything about Palestine a month ago.
No.
Like
And now they went like I've seen more white women wearing hijabs in the last 3 weeks than I
Yeah.
have in my whole life. And like
Yeah.
I was at the art walk on Strawberry Hill and some lady was like, "We need you to support our cause," and she was in no way was she a Palestinian.
Yeah.
And I said, "Could you tell me where the Jews are?" Like that's what I want to
Yeah,
say to
yeah.
these people. Which one of these are the Jews and which one's the Palestinians?
Right.
I watched someone called them called Jewish people white supremacists the other day. I was like, wouldn't they have to be white to like
Yeah.
technically like because they look like also if Palestinians and Jews from Israel look alike, it's hard for them to oppress each other based off the color of their skin.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like one of those weird things, but too same thing. Like it's like, oh, but then you go into like there's other factors where it's like, oh, Israel and Saudi Arabia, we're getting ready to like do some shit together.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, but now you're not.
Yeah, and you have to wonder if there was a little bit of, like we said, spookery going
Yeah.
on.
There's some fuckery about.
They
But
wouldn't do that, would they?
I tell people all the time, will never we've just because you don't realize it, we've never not been at war
Mhm.
my entire life. I was born in 1983. We've been at war the whole time. We were in the Cold War. We were in how many different the Contra conflict. Our government
Yeah,
was selling
and
crack
when we're
cocaine.
not-
Our government was dealing in cocaine.
Yeah, wait.
like-
So you were alive for the fucking
I was very young, but I was
Iran,
coming into my teenage years during
the
the
Contra affair.
well, yeah, during that and during the crack boom and like the gang violence boom.
Yeah.
Which all isn't like a whole other deal, and like that's all died out. Gang culture that we knew it is dead, and that happened because the drug cartels came in and were like, oh, we don't need to sell you drugs.
Yeah.
We will just kill all of you, and then we'll make our own gang to sell the drugs.
And all that shit was used by the media to create so much fear, and then you have these like law and order types of presidents, including Bill Clinton,
Yeah.
who when he was running for president publicly attended in Texas an execution of a mentally disabled man, just to show that he was tough on crime,
Right.
or whatever.
Yeah.
I fucking hate the Clintons so bad.
Yeah, they're not great people. There's way too many people that have died weirdly around them for everyone to like not, like, did you? But then it's like that thing too where it's like they're all fucking friends behind the scenes.
Oh, yeah.
Everyone. It doesn't matter what their party is publicly. Like George Bush was the head of the CIA. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And then
HW.
yeah,
Possibly during, they have a story to deny this, but
yeah,
I think it's pretty fishy that there was a memo, I believe, sent to someone named George Bush immediately after, like George Bush in the CIA immediately after Kennedy's assassination.
Oh yeah, for sure. No, he was in the CIA then.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
but
for sure.
They lied about it. Like there was a guy who found that memo that had his name on it or whatever, and he contacted the George Bush that the CIA said was working for them, and the guy was like, "That wasn't fucking me.
That wasn't us."
And it is also common practice that the CIA will hire dudes that have the same name as someone important,
Right.
For deniability for shit
Right.
like that. The Bushes are like amongst the most evil human beings to ever walk the earth, in my opinion.
Well, yeah, I often wonder. I think that maybe, well, that poor man. Sometimes that's how I think about George H. George Jr. the third.
George W. Bush.
George W.
Yeah.
Bush. That's what I think about that guy sometimes. What a sad man that got. It's almost like I feel like fuck man, like you were just like a party dude. You like to do a little crack now and then. You like to paint paintings, and then your dad like makes you get into government because your brother gets in. And
Yeah.
nobody liked your brother because he was a dick.
To
and
them, it's just the family business.
Yeah, it's just family business.
It's the family business, and they don't give a fuck if people are getting murdered left and right.
Yeah.
The children.
I think that dude just was like told you're going to do this, and then he went in there and was like, okay. And then we had old Blackwater running the scenes. Like that's another crazy thing. How
Did
is
you
the
watch
fucking?
That movie,
oh
Vice?
Yeah, dude.
I thought Vice was phenomenal.
Yeah, great
and
movie.
I thought it was a crime that did not get more attention.
I know.
Than it did.
Is excellent.
Christian
and like
Bale fucking
even
rules
just to
in that
know
movie.
about that dude.
Yeah.
I mean that Cheney was like, dude. I knew dudes that were mercenaries, and they were like all like multiple time felons. Some of them had been like murderers here, and the only way they got off on being able, they were getting paid to go just basically be maniacs, like TV bad guys over in foreign countries.
Yeah.
And they couldn't even. Dude, we're talking about people that we don't allow to have firearms.
Yeah.
And we're sending them to other countries and arming them to the teeth.
And then after they do their psychopathic shit, we make movies about them that glorifies them. Like, I'm talking about American Sniper.
Yeah.
I mean, that guy was a fucking maniac. Like a guy who in his book was bragging about fucking like just killing women. Like,
yeah.
I still cannot believe that. Like, I mean, I know Bradley Cooper is just an actor or whatever.
Yeah.
And whatever. Like, if Clint Eastwood asked me to be in a movie, like, I might do it.
Right.
But not that movie. Like,
right.
That is.
Yeah, it seems like something you'd have to research a little deeper.
Cringe fucking, like, propaganda.
Well, most people don't, like, they don't realize that, like, it's not the army that we're sending there. It's like private contractors that we send out. And it's like one guy from the army for every, like, it used to be 5. I think it's now like 12 private contractors. Because a private contractor, our government they don't take any responsibility for them. They pay them, they get paid crazy money, and they go do things. Like even all the guys that were in Benghazi, they were all contractors. But that's almost a bit of a different gig because your job is protecting the embassy. You're working at the embassy. So I imagine that's a little different than the people that ExxonMobil hires to ride along as gunners. It's like basically Mad Max.
Yeah, yeah.
Like we're talking about Mad Max. The BP is British Petroleum is sending mercenaries to protect their fuel shipments from being taken by terrorists or whoever.
Fuck, I'm glad you brought up Mad Max. I'm a huge, like, I fucking love 80s and 70s and 90s sci-fi films. I love Mad Max. All of those movies are just I feel like the Mad Max series gets better and better, including Fury Road. Fury Road is just
excellent.
Like, that movie is, it's so hard, I feel like, to make a chase scene not like for a whole movie be so like creative and just it's mesmerizing.
It's been done maybe 3 other times.
Yeah.
Vanishing Point.
Haven't seen it.
Oh, Vanishing Point's awesome.
Is it good?
Vanishing Point is a movie. It's about a guy who's transporting a vehicle, and he's driving a vehicle from this dealership to another dealership. It's like a 70 Challenger. It's got a pistol grip shifter. It's like an iconic car, right?
Yeah.
All white, black hood. And he basically bets a guy like a certain amount of money, I think, that he can get this car from here to point A to point B in like 24 hours, and he just proceeds to do barbiturates and take off.
Oh, fuck.
And then he gets like it's like just turns into a total cop chase movie. And then there's Dirty Mary Crazy Larry.
Okay.
And that's got Peter Fonda in it.
That.
It's a fucking crazy movie. It's like Peter Fonda's movies, I was talking about this the other day. Most people don't. They just know like Easy Rider. They're like,
Yeah.
oh, it's that movie about the guys. Well, Easy Rider is about two dudes that
Mhm.
go to Mexico, make a drug deal, and they smuggle these drugs back across the border. They sell them. They take the money. They buy two choppers, and then
Uh-huh.
they hide the money in the gas tank, the leftovers, and they're riding to
Oh,
Mardi
that
Gras.
rules.
That's what that
I
movie's
gotta check
about.
this out.
Oh, that's Easy Rider. That's what Easy Rider's about.
Yeah,
And
I
then
haven't seen that.
and then most people don't realize like he's a motorcycle stunt rider and the other guy is like his mechanic. Like
Yeah.
Dirty Mary Crazy Larry is about two dudes that are like there's a driver and then his mechanic. And
Okay.
they have a NASCAR team
Uh-huh.
and they rob a grocery store to fund the race team because they're
Okay.
committing crimes to fund their race team. And then they take off and then it's a whole movie of them being chased after they robbed this grocery store.
This
And
sounds incredible.
it's incredible, dude.
Um,
Dirty Mary Crazy Larry.
I guess yeah, it makes sense since you have your background in like as a mechanic and everything.
Yeah.
Like you probably love Mad Max and like.
Oh
shit
yeah,
like
that's
that.
how it all started, dude.
Yeah.
Road Warrior.
Road Warrior.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's where it all started. When I was a
great
kid, I
movie.
used to Star Wars. I
Mhm.
rented Star Wars from the video store so many times. The dude just gave me he like you've rented Return of the Jedi so much.
Yeah.
We bought you your own copy on
Oh.
VHS, and now you just like rent other movies. You need
Yeah.
to watch other movies.
That's
you know what
they
I mean?
were looking out for you, dude.
Yeah,
That's
there's so
amazing.
many classic car movies, man. Like Two Lane Blacktop. It's got Dennis Wilson and James Taylor in
Dennis
it
Wilson.
from the Beach
from
Boys,
Beach Boys.
and James Taylor.
God
And
damn.
Dennis Wilson. All these movies are like a driver and a mechanic. There's
Uh-huh.
always a mechanic. You know what I mean? And it's them. They like are going around in this '55 Chevy Gasser in like street racing.
Uh-huh.
And they meet Warren Oates is the actor. He's driving this Pontiac GTO. He's this cocky rich guy.
Uh-huh.
And they decide to race like across the East Coast. And it's like another crazy chase movie in a way, but not
Yeah.
with the cops.
What's your favorite Tarantino film? Let me ask you that. Are you
Ooh.
into Death Proof since that's
I
like
do
kinda-
like Death Proof, but that's not my favorite Tarantino.
Yeah.
It's probably Pulp Fiction.
that's a solid answer.
That's a solid answer. But fuck, man, I really love that extended version of Hateful Eight that they put out on Netflix. That's
Yeah.
like the 4 parts that
Hateful
are. It's like,
Eight, I wasn't crazy about the first time I watched it, and then the more times I watched it, the more I liked it. 'Cause
that's how
was
I felt
expecting
about.
Django,
Right.
and it wasn't Django.
It wasn't Django. I felt that way about Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. It took me a couple times to fucking after the third time. It's when I was really like, oh, this is tremendous. It's hard to like. I don't think there's anything he's done that I dislike. I love True Romance. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? But I mean, Pulp Fiction for me, like, dude.
It's hard
Any
to
of you
beat.
motherfuckers move?
We forget how it's Pulp Fiction because it's been around so long and it's been played so many times and parodied so many times. We forget how like good it is.
Yeah.
I think. But yeah, I mean, at the time, there had never been any movie like that. Like,
No, and then there's like I think Jackie Brown is probably like
oh
the
my
most
God, I love
forgot about movie by Tarantino that like
Dude.
fucking rules. You know what I mean?
That's one of my favorite. Like, I love Samuel L. Jackson's character in that
Yeah.
so much.
Dude, he's good in like most things he's in, but specifically in those
Dude.
Tarantino roles.
That
he's
part
like
where he's
crazy.
like, what did he say? I have her at my apartment in Compton. I told her it was Beverly Hills or whatever.
Yeah.
Uh,
Fuck, that movie's great.
Dude, it's hard to know which one's the best because like they are all just like art with a capital A.
Yeah.
But I lately I've been saying that like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is my favorite.
Oh yeah,
because-
for sure.
and it's the most tame probably of any of those movies. But I love it when he does this with Inglorious Bastards as well, where he'll mix like history that happened,
Right.
but he won't like stick to it.
Right.
He sees
He
history
modifies
as
it. They're like fairy
malleable.
tales. It's like fantasy. It's
Yeah,
like
just randomly Charles Manson just showing up in that movie for
Yeah.
just like nothing.
right.
But it's
just to
chilling when he
set
does.
up
Yeah.
the very last scene.
Mhm.
But really, the whole movie is just about a dude who's like
A washed up
a
actor.
washed up actor who
Yeah.
can't afford to like pay his stuntman slash driver.
Yeah.
Dude, and then there's like I heard Tarantino. It might have been on Joe Rogan, or he did like a big thing because he wrote a book that went
Mhm.
with the movie. Like there's a Once Upon a Time in Hollywood like novel that he wrote, and
Oh,
it
yeah.
explains like Cliff killing his wife more and some other things. It
Yeah.
sounded like real interesting. And then it gave you more like he gave some more depth to the characters while he was
Yeah.
talking. And then I went back and watched it after I heard him, and it was like, oh, there's like little subtleties
would
that I
love
missed.
that.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's what I loved about that Hateful Eight is the fuck, dude. It's so good. Like the
It's
little
really
subtle
good.
things that you realize after you watch it the second or third time.
Mhm.
I'd say like my least favorite is probably Kill Bill.
Yeah.
And I love martial arts movies,
Mhm.
and there's just parts of that movie that I'm just like, eh. Like I saw it live, and I remember I went to the theater and saw it, and I
Yeah.
remember all that. But it was just like, now it doesn't do it. There are parts of it that I love, but it's not my shit. You know, I like the way he tells stories like that, like
Yeah.
especially in Pulp Fiction, like creativity is abound in that movie
Mhm.
because it's like, oh well, like this dude is this dude, and it's like, okay, but like, oh, he's bringing up the ass watch again, and then
Mhm.
like, oh, now this guy's gonna this that guy was mad at him, but now that he killed these rednecks,
Yeah.
he's gonna let him go, and it's just like that scene, dude. That is like one of the craziest scenes in a movie. Is homeboy chase who plays Marcellus? It's not.
Ving.
Is it Ving
Yeah,
Rhames?
yeah.
Ving Rhames going after Bruce Willis, and then them getting kidnapped by rednecks
Yeah.
randomly,
Yeah.
and then like
and they form a
getting
bond.
raped, and then they're like, through that, it's like, oh yeah, no, we're good. Like,
Well, that's what I feel like. That's what Tarantino does best. Is he takes your morality and he's just like, you think you know, like your morals, your moral code or whatever.
but you don't know
But
shit.
what happens? Yeah, what
You don't know
happens
nothing.
when there's these sadistic cops like raping both of you?
Yeah.
Like,
What happens when Leroy and his cousin show
Yeah.
up and. Dude, then that's the iconic like motorcycle in the motorcycle community. It's like, it's not a motorcycle, it's a chopper, baby.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And
Yeah,
that's like
'cause that's
no
the-
one would consider that a chopper, like in real life. Like
Really?
it's just like a stock bike with a paint job.
That's great.
Bruce Willis, though, notorious shithead apparently.
He's I guess I don't know. It's hard to say because I find him. He's one of those actors that I find so likable on screen
Yeah.
that I just
I just assume that if you're
Kind
that
of
likable and that
pass.
good, like you're probably like an artistic dickhead. Like I'm
Maybe.
sure Daniel Day-Lewis isn't the most solid dude in the
No.
world. You know what I mean? Like
Christian Bale's an asshole, and
Yeah.
he's my maybe my favorite actor. I think like American Psycho is like possibly the funniest movie I've ever seen.
Yeah.
You just
Dude,
you
the
have
fact-
to be mature
just
enough
the-
to
and
watch
who-
it
like,
as a comedy.
To
because
like
that's what it
watch
is.
that, to like write that, and then be like, I'm gonna make this dude obsessed with Genesis. It's like what? Like
yeah.
the fuck, man.
Well, in the whole point of American Psycho, like when I watched it as a kid, I didn't understand it, and I thought it was like oh, this is a good like slasher type of, or like a good horror movie. But then like after you live life for a little bit, you watch it and you're like, oh, this is totally just calling like Patrick Bateman an insignificant dork
Yeah.
because he's so insignificant that he gets away with murder because he's indistinguishable from the next Wall Street dickhead.
Right.
And that's hilarious. And there's so many iconic scenes that are so funny.
Yeah.
Like the business cards, when he's explaining Genesis and Huey Lewis in the news. That's
Yeah.
so funny. My favorite part in American Psycho is actually when he's in the cab with Reese Witherspoon.
Yep.
And she's like talking about when they're gonna get married, and he's like, I can't take the time off of work or
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
And then she's like, she's like, "You hate that job. Why don't you quit?" And he's like, "I'm trying to fit in." Like,
Yeah.
I think about that all the
Yeah.
time.
It's just like it's a fucked up movie. Then there's the failed sequel starring Mila Kunis.
Yeah, they sometimes like it's just like, why the fuck are you trying to make a sequel to this? They and oftentimes
I
the
felt that
sequels are
way about
terrible.
the last Matrix movie that came out.
Yeah,
Like,
that was a cash grab. It
yeah, I
felt
think
like
after you've gone from like you made these movies as two like what seemed like very machismo esque dudes at the time,
Mhm.
and then now you're making the sequel and you're both trans, and it's like a weird thing where it's like I don't. We could
Yeah.
have just used a new movie from you. We didn't need to like. I felt the same way about the the Deadwood movie
I
that
didn't
they
see
made.
that. And
I was
I've
like,
never watched Deadwood either.
man, Deadwood was so tight, and then it ended because of the writers' strike back in the day.
Yeah.
It just was it. And then it's like you're watching that movie, and it's like, yeah, this fucking sucks. Like I don't know. I
Yeah,
obviously something is
Sopranos movie
different.
was also terrible.
Yeah, the Mini
Um,
Saints of Newark.
yeah.
Yeah, it was like, man, you could have done so much cool shit, and they built all this hype up around like, about it being about Tony Soprano, and it
Yeah.
really wasn't about him at all. It was about Christopher's dad, and then
You
it
know
was
what I
like,
think though? I think that with with the Wachowski
yeah,
sisters, I guess, and David, what's his name? David Chase, who made Sopranos.
yeah,
Those people are I do think like all three of those people that I just mentioned are brilliant.
yeah,
And I think that they get to a point like they know that they're eventually going to have to make some kind of sequel or whatever just for money.
yeah.
But they get to a point where they're like, I'm gonna make it so fucking bad that no one seriously thinks that I was trying.
Or
Because I would do
yeah,
the
that,
same
and also
thing.
like I don't want to do this, so I'm
Yeah,
gonna just
I'm doing it
flub
for the
it.
money.
So yeah, and then
And
we don't have to
because
do
if you
this
do
again.
try, it's like
The
it's gonna
Matrix
be
was already perfect
insincere.
the way it was. We didn't
Yeah,
need to see
and
the
they probably feel the same way.
yeah, we didn't need the final episode that really was like, isn't this just the third Matrix movie remade again?
Mm-hmm.
Like they're just doing the Kevin Smith thing. I'm just gonna
They
remake
had to
my
be
movies.
trolling. I feel
They,
like
I hope.
because I don't know. I hold the first Matrix film in such high regard, and I like when I didn't. I feel like no one really knew that it was trans ideology when they first watched it or
Right,
whatever. But that's what's so cool about it to me now. Not like because it proves something that I believe,
right,
and that is that when you make art that is really good, um, even if it's based in something that everyday people don't understand, it has applications. It still works. And
right,
like like the Matrix, supposedly is about being trans and busting out of the the prison that society has put you in to
right.
start your life. But it shows that that sort of mindset and that sort of thinking, it has applications outside of gender. It's the same thing. It's the same thing with
Yeah. Well, it
whatever
could be
class politics.
right. It could be about class politics. It could
Hmm.
be about race politics. It could be about literally any. It's just about oppression. That's
Yeah,
all it is. It's
yeah.
just and it's something. It's like a good song, like a
Hmm.
song that lasts forever. Like why is Symphony for the Devil so good? Well,
Yeah.
because it's relevant to everyone.
Hmm.
Everyone can listen to that, and that's what real art is like it doesn't matter what they meant, and
Yeah.
I feel like they probably feel that way. Their meaning for it
Yeah.
is their meaning for it,
Hmm.
but it's like it's like listening to like Harry Potter dorks. They have a whole different
Yeah.
they have a deep meaning for Harry Potter, and I'm like, oh, it's just a cool story about magical wizards. You know
Hmm.
what I mean? Like,
Yeah, and I mean like Harry Potter. That is a good comparison or a good thing to bring up in a way because I feel like it's Harry Potter is one of those things where like I don't want to shit on anyone's like enjoyment of it or
yeah,
whatever, but I don't think that J.K. Rowling from what I know, I don't think that she's brilliant in the way that people like. She repackaged many things to make something that's very lovable,
Yeah.
but she wasn't like groundbreaking.
No, that's what I'm saying. It can be good, right?
Yeah.
Like, so but it's not art.
No.
It's art in that they've made a film, but it's not art in the sense that like just the same thing. Like why is "I Walk the Line" so prominent by Johnny
Yeah.
Cash? Because every person in the world can relate to it. She
Yeah.
just took good versus evil, and then
Mhm.
she did a good versus evil. There's a million movies that have come out like that.
Yeah.
That if we talked about, we'd be like, oh, that movie was fucking good. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? But you don't remember them.
It's not, but it ain't Lord of the Rings.
No,
Lord
it
of the
ain't.
Rings,
No, dude, Lord of the Rings is the
Lord of the Rings
fucking
is sacred.
dude. The Hobbit,
Yeah.
the cartoon, the original.
You like the original
I'm
Hobbit
a dude.
cartoon?
I'm a huge Mark. I mean, obviously, I don't. My entire upstairs is full of fantasy art. Like that's
Yeah.
why I have this
You
Rosetta.
like wizards?
Dude,
might
I love
actually-
wizards.
Dude, I've been thinking about
That's
which,
my
which
whole-
piece I want to give you.
That's my whole vibe is wizards.
I have a graphic novel on my.
I actually look. I got a wizard right here.
Oh, that rules. Oh, he's an interesting one too. He's not your basic.
Got a Harley Davidson motorcycle engine in the crystal ball.
Dude, we're gonna get along so well.
Oh yeah,
This is
I saw that. That is sick.
Thanks,
Here, let's
man.
show that to the. I'll zoom in. I'll do
That's
a zoom.
Randy.
I saw that. I saw I was reading whatever that comment was where you told the guy like, here I thought, what did it say? It's like, oh, and to think after reading your comment, I thought you were a cop, and then I just find out you're just a literal pig.
Yeah.
This is cool.
I fight with people on the internet sometimes.
I noticed that. I noticed that about you when I was researching. I do like this. This is great. This
Thanks,
is like,
man.
this is my shit. You might not have noticed the 3.5 foot tall concrete Gandalf that's sitting in front of, like, on my front stoop when we were outside.
I didn't see that yet. I'm gonna.
That's how I
take a
tell most people,
gander.
like, when it's daylight, I'm like, just look for the concrete wizard.
Yeah.
Is there anything else?
The rest of that isn't finished.
Oh, it's all right. I like unfinished.
Yeah, but I'm
Ooh.
working on some things.
Is that
there.
Hezbollah?
My friend Maddie drew that actually. She's very she's another comedian and a painter. She kind of copies off me.
Just copy.
I was the first guy to think of it.
Yeah, I grew up in a well, as you can see, there's like they can't see this, but there's like black velvet paintings just laying everywhere
Fuck
down
yeah.
here, and upstairs they're all over. But my mom and my grandma had a folk art craft store when I was a kid, and they
No
taught
kidding.
painting lessons and shit.
Yeah.
So I came up through that, and then I
love that shit.
I suck at. That's how this came about. Was like I was searching for the thing that brought it all together.
Well, you're
Like-
good at talking.
Yeah, well,
Like,
like,
you're
the
well-spoken.
art, like the art thing, like just in general, like okay, like what is the medium that like brings all of the things I love together, including the cars, including talking to people,
Yeah.
even like the airbrushing shirts. Like we've been talking about like doing some like live streaming where we airbrush like monster T-shirts, you know. And then I
Yeah.
found this, and it's like, oh man, the fun that I have, like. I'll show you some stuff later
and you
that
get
I've been
to
working
do shit
on.
like this.
Yeah, and then
and
my
have
friends
an aesthetic.
yeah, I got I painted the basement down here. Like me and my kid
Oh,
did this
yeah.
together to like, this was all white when I
Yeah.
moved here, and it was like ooh, and we painted it this red. Like the old set, it had like super stripes from the '70s around it, and I was
Uh-huh.
like, I don't want to do that, and I was like, oh, comic book castle wall, that's what we'll
Dude,
do. You
it
know what I
fucking
mean?
rules.
Even I made this chair.
Oh,
that
did
I'm
you?
sitting on, I like painted it. It was like a chair. I fixed it and painted it and then upholstered it.
This is so
and
my
had somebody
vibe.
upholster the pad for me.
I'm
and-
so glad John thought to.
Yeah, dude. John rules. Shout out
Fucking-
to John.
Yeah. Do you fuck with King of the Hill at all?
I do. I really like that guy that does the rap thing where he
The
does
goddamn it,
Hank
Bobby.
Trill.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's tremendous.
I keep that thing on, man.
Yeah, he has a whole album of that. He made a
I've-
whole entire record on. It's on Spotify.
The man's a genius.
He is.
I gotta find the right piece for you, man. I want you to have something good. That's my favorite thing about being a painter and comedian, like just the type of whatever I'm doing.
Yeah,
is that I paint so many things compulsively, just constantly, and I love giving just for free, just as a brag. I'll be like, hey, this is my business card, and
Yeah.
hand someone, you know.
I paint shit, and then I always just am like, this belongs to your. This you should have this one.
Yeah.
Because I'll give you a painting.
I
have
want.
paintings.
Yeah, let's trade, bro.
Yeah. So let's dive into that because here we are. I brought a stand-up comedian on, and this is the first time I've ever talked about conspiracy theories on the show,
Yeah.
which rules because
I
I've
know.
been waiting for the person that I can talk to this that
I'm the
doesn't
guy.
go. Okay,
I'm the
you
guy.
know?
I'm
I've
here.
had a couple. I've had a few rough ones. There's been a couple people lately where it's been like, again, I like it's like they're the homies, but they're like they get gun shy when there's cameras on and they're worried
Yeah.
about society, and I don't really care about
Dude,
any of that.
I've destroyed
So,
my reputation
yeah,
already so many
me
times
too.
over. So I don't give
And
a
what
fuck.
it only matters to those people
Yeah.
that are mad. It doesn't matter to the majority of people. Go, oh yeah, no, that person's crazy. Like this person's all right.
Yeah.
But you know how. So you started doing comedy when you're 26, 27,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
you're like 32,
Two.
32 now. So what led you to now, like you said you're only making a living doing comedy and art. So what sort of things, like what led to that? Are you touring now? Do you tour? I don't like, I semi understand that as I am a big fan of comedy,
Yeah.
which is how John and I originally linked up.
Sure.
But like, are you like opening? Are you touring on your own? Are you just doing the hustle?
So, as you know, like with a standard comedy show, like at a comedy club, comics do like 5 shows in a weekend. There's a host, a feature, and a headliner.
Right.
Typically, I've spent the last few years just being a feature, a middle act, which you can make money on. You can still sell merch and
Right.
whatnot. I had a big life change like a year ago where I got broken up with, and I was living with a woman, and I had to find a new living situation very quickly, and I fell into a horrible depression, like for 6 months probably.
For sure.
And I really let things go by the wayside. And I just, all the momentum that I had at that point, which was a lot, I just had an extremely low self-worth and you know, it's not unique. A lot of guys have been through something like this, a lot of people in general.
I think it comes with artistic people even more so.
Sometimes we let other people dictate our value.
Yeah.
And it was just like, and my ex is I love her. She's a great person. But just that reality check of just having someone being like, hey, I don't want to be with you anymore.
Right.
I let that in my head just completely dictate my worth, and I just became a worm. I stayed in bed for 6 months, basically. I did stand up and I painted a little bit, but it was bad.
Yeah, you were like, fuck it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But since then, I've found Jesus, and by that I mean acid.
Yeah.
And that, for some reason, acid just helped me, like it made all of the things that were bothering me, like I had convinced myself that I was very stupid. I had convinced myself that I was a terrible artist, a terrible comedian, all these things. And like when I had this acid trip, would have been like in July maybe, I something happened in my brain, and I was able to it just gave me a little spark, like a little push, like, hey, you might not be worthless.
Right.
You know. And that was enough to like make me. I had this really good weekend with Jeremiah Watkins, like a week after that trip, and he filmed a set for me, with his expensive ass cameras, like 4 different angles, and he edited it for me. And he gave that to me, and that's how I got like all my new clips,
right?
Which have been popping off.
Yeah, that was what you call your EP, right?
Yes.
What's it called?
Yes.
I like that you did that.
Thank you.
It's not like it's not most people. I think most comedians would have been like, "Oh, here's my YouTube special," and it's like, no, this is an EP.
Yes, this is a little taste.
A little taste. Yeah.
and I have you know I owe him so much. That cop joke that I released
Mm-hmm.
as a reel on
Yeah.
Instagram, it went viral, and I've gained like this new small but mighty following of like-minded individuals who kind of hate cops.
Yeah.
Um, and it's been rewarding. It's been like it's given me all this new confidence, and I wake up every day now. I'm just excited to carry out these plans that I have, because I'm doing two specials this winter, and I mean it. Like,
Yeah.
one of them is going to be me giving a tour basically at the Nelson Atkins. I
Okay.
have bits about I've been going there on mushrooms, and
Okay.
I have bits about the paintings
Yeah.
there. So I'm gonna do that. I think I'm calling that Aaron Scarborough's Candyland. It's a thing. And then I'm also gonna do like a psychedelic comedy special at Hillsiders here in
Mm-hmm.
KCK, because I love the interior of that.
Yeah.
And
Shout
I
out
like
to my
Loogie Logan.
Logan is again. I'm Logan.
Yeah.
I was the bouncer at the Riot Room,
No shit. Okay.
and
It's such a small world.
Logan's brother-in-law was Timmy at the time. Logan's
Yeah.
first wife
Yeah.
was Timmy's sister-in-law.
Yeah.
And one day, Timmy shows up to the bar, and I'm there early doing something for some reason. Like, I was all skeezed out. I was like doing drug deals
Yeah.
and stuff. And he shows up and he's like, "Hey, this is my brother-in-law. He's gonna work here as a bar back."
Uh-huh.
And he's like, he's a rapper.
Yeah.
Here's this white kid with like Satan tattoos
Uh-huh.
and like a Bulls jersey. And
Yeah.
he went, "You two are probably gonna be real good friends." And me
Yeah.
and him have been like this
Dude, I
pretty
love
much
that.
ever since.
Yeah, Logan is like there's something about that guy. Whenever I met him, you meet people and you're like he's into different shit than me. I'm not.
Right.
I'm not into like hip hop.
Right.
To the capacity that he is.
Right.
But what I like about him is that he has the audacity to just be himself.
Oh
you
yeah,
know?
full blown.
There's
That's
not
just
very
him.
many people are like that.
And I also like that people think like he's just like the king of trolling, to where
Yeah.
he's like we were talking about being a contrarian, where he's like he just dives nose deep and he's like, "Oh, I'm an asshole? Okay, well, let me show you what an asshole
Yeah,
is."
yeah.
You know what I mean?
I love that. And
Yeah.
he's got a much different personality than I do. You know, but I just
But he's also like a guy, like, for what most people think about him, like
Mhm.
he's oh man, he's so artistic. He's also like he's one of those guys that would like if he's your dog, he's your dog, and he has
Yeah.
your back.
He's
And as
loyal.
long as you like if he knows he has that in return from you,
Mhm.
then that's all he cares about. He doesn't care about money. He doesn't care about any of that shit.
Yeah.
Like, and we've always just anytime he called me not that long ago and was like, "Dude, I got a flat tire." I was like, "Oh, well, just go to my house and
Fuck yeah.
like I'll have my kids set the jack out for you." You know?
Dude, that's what life is all about, man.
Yeah.
It's finding fucking Logans.
Yeah. If you got 5 good homies like that, you're good.
You're untouchable.
That's it.
He's also it blows my mind. I also appreciate people who are multi-talented
Yeah.
as well, because I consider myself like that. And that motherfucker is good at design.
Yeah.
Very
No,
good.
very good at design.
Shockingly good at design.
He's one of those people that like anything that he does, he tends to excel in it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and he'll do like we have a similar thing where it's like, "Oh, you don't think I can do this?
Yeah.
I will do this." Like he
Yeah.
basically started a successful bar almost out of like it
Yeah.
began as like a spite quest against someone else.
Yeah.
And it's like stemmed into being like, "Oh yes, this is
Yeah,
great."
and he's like the first time I went to Hillsiders, I was just like, fucking thank God. How
Yeah.
because no one made a bar like this.
Yeah.
Like it's the aesthetic in there is so cool.
Yeah.
I
It's
I do- I
he
fuck
comes up a
with
lot.
Logan.
He's supposed to come over and every time something's been coming up. So he'll
For
be
the
on
podcast?
soon. Yeah. I want to get him on for sure. Okay, so we're at the EPs. We're gonna film 2 specials.
Mhm.
So now, are you back to going on the road? And so was
Yeah.
Jeremiah here when he filmed that
He was
for you?
here,
Because that was
yeah.
at the Comedy
I was
Club
f-
of Kansas City, right?
Yes, I featured for him, did 5 shows, and we really clicked. Um, and headliners like that, like who are much more successful than I am, they oftentimes they like you and they want to help you or something, and they make kind of empty promises or whatever,
Right.
and it's just part of the business. Like
Right.
sometimes, like, and I've done the same thing where like I think I can help somebody, and then like I'm thinking about it later and I'm like, oh, I'm fucking busy, I can't
Right.
really so I didn't expect anything from him, but he texted me and he sent me the video, and I couldn't believe how good it looked. Like,
Yeah.
it looks legit.
Yeah.
And it was edited perfectly so that you get like the audience reactions and
Yeah.
whatnot. Um,
No, it looked great.
Yeah.
Because I was gonna ask, like, who filmed this for you? Like, did you? I was like, are you doing this
Jeremiah
all yourself?
motherfucking
That's awesome.
Watkins, dude.
And if people don't know, Jeremiah is from Kansas City Metro.
Mm-hmm.
He was. I know about him from. I've been years ago.
Yeah.
And like I was telling you, early podcast
Yeah.
times. My oldest friend, Randy Edwards. We've been friends since 5th grade.
Yeah.
He's always wearing these Death Squad shirts.
Yeah.
And his dad used to take him to his parents were divorced, and his dad would take him to Sanford and Sons all the time to see comedy.
Yeah.
And that's how I got into comedy, was through Randy.
Yeah.
And he was like, hey, because we were like little kids listening to Dr. Demento records and shit. And like one day I was just like, yo, what's up with this like Death Squad shit?
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, bro, let me show you. And that's where he showed me like the original Joe Rogan experience. He showed me Kill Tony. And then it was like, oh shit. Up until the point like when Kill Tony was in Lawrence, we went and I signed up trying to go do a minute because I was like, I'll do this.
Yeah.
This is like, why wouldn't you? Like, I love this show. I
Yeah.
listen to it every week. Like, why would I not?
Yeah.
I came here to see
Try
it.
to be
I don't
part of
give
the
a shit.
episode.
Because at a minimum, I know if I could bomb the minute, but I'm gonna crush it when it comes time to talk to people person to person, because I've always been that guy. Like,
yes.
That's one thing I love. Like, that's my biggest. I think that's my. If you ask me what like my greatest trait is probably the availability to talk to anyone. Like, I'll talk to anyone.
Yeah.
I can be very short and to the point if need be, and people get weirded out by that sometimes. But I'll talk to random people in line at the store. I don't care. I'll talk to anybody.
I'm the same way, but I'm also, it's a double-edged sword. I will talk to anyone, but as soon as I get bored, I will abruptly walk away.
Yeah.
I don't fuck with people's stories that I don't want to hear.
Yeah.
I don't have
I've been
time.
known to linger too long.
Really?
Oh yeah. Sometimes I like it. I think deep down inside I kind of know, like, oh, if there's like little weird shit, it's like, oh, well, that's cool. I'll just linger for as long as possible to make you feel weird, because you're trying to make me feel weird.
That's another method for sure.
Oh man. Well, that's awesome, dude. So you're able to now you're able to just, and art wise, is it just like selling art? Is it like anything specific that you're doing, or is it just
so I'm mainly like, I'm not a very money motivated person,
right?
And that's not to say like I'm broke all the fucking time,
right?
I have $20 right now,
yeah,
but I mean, I always figure out a way. And
yeah.
I realize now that right now the name of the game is not making money for me. Like, I'm ready to start making money, but I really want to just get as many people to know who I am and have my artwork in their house as possible. So whenever I meet someone and I feel like they fuck with my art and they fuck with my comedy or whatever, there's no way I'm going to walk away without giving them something.
Right.
Like, I just give it away.
Right.
And I don't feel bad about it at all.
I'm in a similar state like now, like to where it's like I used to try to hustle. Like, I'll buy and sell stuff, but I'm kind of like getting out of that vibe of like vintage stuff. And it was, and then with my day job, I'm do well enough at the shop I work at that like I don't have to do like I used to have to hustle side work all the time to try to
Yeah.
like just have enough money to live.
Yeah.
And I don't want to do that. And like with this all the time, people are like, oh, you can make money doing that. If you just
Yeah.
did this, I'm like, yeah, no, what I'm going to do is just what I'm doing because
Yeah.
I enjoy doing it. And if one day I make money at doing all this stuff, cool. But
Yeah.
right now, I would just
That's
much
the best
rather
spot
like
to be in.
honestly, I'm looking like I have a goal where it's like a thing where like I have a my I have a problem like I feel like I'm jamming I don't like jamming shit down people's throats, you know? So it's
Yeah.
like hard for me to like shamelessly self promote this like and jam it down your throat,
Yeah.
right? But like I'm starting to get to where like the fear of rejection is going away and it's like okay, this weird indie band I like is coming to town. I am going to send them a message on Instagram, and if I can
Dude,
get one of
always
them to come
ask.
over, I'm
Yeah.
just gonna start asking. And even with you, that's why when John hooked
Yeah.
us up, I was like, I'd love to talk to you. And it was like, here's my number. Just text me. And
Dude.
then the minute you text me, and then you're like, when do you want to do it? I'm like, I don't know. When do you want to do it? And then
Well,
finally, I was like, tomorrow.
if I would have got the vibe that you were annoying or something, I would have not hit you
Yeah.
up. But I could tell instantly. I swear to God, this is the power of design.
Yeah.
I saw that and I was like, I'll like this guy.
Yeah.
Like for real.
Yeah. And
Um,
that's the nice thing. Like now, like my social media, I've made it. I like adding all the clips and doing
mhm.
things just like you, to where now I'm doing more of that stuff to put it
Yeah.
out there. To where if somebody wants to know what the vibe is, it's like, oh, you can just here's
Yeah.
a bajillion small clips of like what I
Yep.
do, and then like that I put up the last thing I put up was like I went to the World of Wheels last year and wanted to do like a. I had it set up, had somebody do camera, and I wanted to do like man on the street type stuff. But
Yeah.
it was more like I just wanted to talk to people at car shows. But same thing, I was able to like get all these like I saw a lady at a Trump fucking booth. So it's like, oh
Uh-huh.
yeah, I'm immediately stopping to talk to her.
Yeah.
And it's hilarious.
You have
And then
to.
there's a guy that looks like Guy Fieri. And I
Uh-huh.
talk to him. And the whole time I just keep calling him Larry Fieri. And he keeps telling me, that's my orange 37. I keep going, you mean the green one? And then
Yeah.
like every time I just keep
I gotta
fucking
watch some
up
of
that it's like the green one. I'll show you that shit because I haven't released the video yet. I've been editing it.
Fuck yeah.
But I want to do more of that where I can like go out and just like joke around with people because nobody got mad. Everybody was like in on it basically.
Yeah.
Like everybody was down to joke around,
Yeah.
and it was like a lot of people I know from the car world. So so it's really like kind of a dorky thing where it's for car people,
Right.
But the normal person might watch it and just be like, "Oh God, what the fuck is this?" But it can make you laugh. You know what I mean? And it's just whatever you get out of it, like. And you never know. There's no rhyme or reason to any of this stuff on how to do it. Like as many people as tell you that there are, like this is how you make a. Well, that's cool, but like that doesn't last. Anyone can make a viral video,
Yeah.
but like that doesn't last.
No, it doesn't.
Like-
and it doesn't get you followers, honestly.
No.
If they don't see that you have other shit, like it's just
and
it's
it's
a
still not
temporary-
lasting. Like if you do good art,
Mhm.
like your comedy is funny, dude.
Thanks,
like
man.
it's very funny and it's very original in that like you're shitting on the police but you're not doing it you're not like angry.
Right,
like
right.
there isn't a single clip of you with a hint of anger in it.
No.
But like it's like that was like what I found most appealing about your comedy when I was
Yeah.
looking at it. Was like, oh, this guy, like that's why I was like, oh, for sure, like you and I
Yeah.
we might think differently.
Mhm.
But we could have a conversation about that because neither one of us is going to get angry about
Of
what we're
course
talking
not.
about. You know what I mean?
Yeah, as long as people don't like the only thing that makes me angry anymore is when people insult my art.
Yeah.
If I get the feeling that someone doesn't respect my art, I'm a sensitive
I'm-
little baby.
Yeah. I had
You
that
know?
happen. I put up a video in a local, like a friend of mine is a punk rock band.
Uh-huh.
And I made this video from this drag show, for like drag race, like
Yeah, yeah.
in this, not like drag queens, like drag racing
Sure.
cars, and like I used one of their band songs, and some
Uh-huh.
fucking guy like reshared it,
Uh-huh.
and he's like, great video, not my music choice. And I was just like, why would you say that?
Ugh.
And it became this whole thing. I was like, I just don't understand. Like, and then it became a point where I had to finally be like, dude, nobody would even think that you chose that music because
Right.
you didn't
You're
make
just
the
being a
video.
dick.
Like, you don't make videos. Why would anyone think? Why are you
Ugh.
being such a? Then it was turn a thing. It was like, well, dude, it just seems like you're shitty. You're like shitting on it.
Yeah.
It's like when people, man, I've noticed lately. It's like when people do say something fucked up and they go,
Yeah.
"I'm just saying." Well, I don't need you to tell me you're just saying.
Yeah,
I fucking
that-
heard you say it.
Yeah.
But also, like, that's just like being like, you know,
People are
not
so
to be rude,
fucking
but you're a
annoying.
bitch. Like, it's like, what?
Yeah.
That is rude.
Yeah.
like,
That doesn't cancel out what you said.
You're a
fucking
real piece of
Nimrod.
shit cocksucker.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that.
Just saying. I can have an opinion.
You liberals, oh, you Republicans, whatever. They're all that's my thing now. Is like all those people are the same people. And I
Yeah.
think that the only hope we have as a country is if we get far left, multicolored hair women
Mm-hmm.
that have the alien haircut
Yes.
to just bed with every follower of Kyle Rittenhouse in the world. And maybe off of that, we'll have some like normal, decent people will sprout because they're like,
That
plus my
might.
parents are fucking crazy.
right. I gotta pee, and then I gotta go pretty quick.
Yeah,
here,
no,
actually.
we can wrap it
Let
up.
me
What's
give you
your
something.
where do they where's everybody
Okay,
find you at?
So they're watching on YouTube right now, right?
Right.
Okay,
And I'll
s-
link your YouTube and your
That's what I want.
Instagram in the profile.
I want the YouTube subs first.
Yeah.
So Aaron Scarbrough on YouTube, at Aaron Scarbrough, and then go to my if you want, go to my Instagram. That's where I keep the good shit.
Yeah. I'll
So if
link
you wanna
that.
look at my
I'll
art.
link Aaron's Instagram. I'll link all of his details in the description of the video.
Yeah, and,
And,
I hope that me and Cornell West can count on your vote in 24.
Yes. You've got mine.
Here.
Oh, dude,
is that
perfect.
Wizard?
That's
Is
perfect.
that does that work for you?
Yeah, this is this
That's
is tremendous.
Randy.
Look at this, everyone. Aaron, my man.
Dude, I
This is
really
so
I
much
fuck
fun.
with you. Thanks
Dude,
for
I
having me.
honestly have had like a super shitty 24 hours dealing with cable company employees for the Spectrum Corporation.
Oh my
that
god,
which led
they're
to
the
me
worst.
having to have the Google guy come over, which it led to even more shit. To where
Yeah.
like it was like right before you were coming, I was like, oh my god, I gotta take a shower. Oh
Yeah,
my god,
yeah.
and then it was like, okay, it was like, man, I fuck it. It get to that point where you're like, I hope this doesn't fucking. I hope
Mhm.
this is.
Dude.
I hope this isn't another. Where did you grow up?
Yeah.
This city.
No, I
Oh, cool. Where did you go to college? Here.
yeah.
It's like, oh,
Dude,
okay.
I
Like,
would never. I get bored so fucking easy.
Yeah.
So what I do, I will make things. You know, I cannot stand dull conversation.
Yeah.
So I will
Dude,
fucking
this
bring
is
something up.
this is the stimulation I needed this week. I think to end off my work week. To be
Dude,
honest
thanks
with
for
you.
not being lame.
Oh,
I
dude,
appreciate it.
anytime. That's the. You heard that here first. I
Yeah.
am not. I am not a lame.
Yeah.
Contrary to what all you bitches think.
Mhm, mhm.
All right, man. I appreciate it, and
Thanks for
dude, I
having
hope
me.
I can't wait to come see you do comedy. Thanks for watching, everybody. Like, subscribe, my shit, his shit,
Later, guys.
and we'll see you next time.
Free Palestine.
Ugh.